Why zone 2 running gets harder as you get fitter. When I first started running in zone 2, I only just thought no, something was wrong, right? In the beginning, it felt too easy. Like, how's it supposed to help me run any faster? But a few months in, something strange happened. Zone 2 running actually got harder. And I've seen the same thing with my clients, my athletes, runners who are getting fitter, faster, and suddenly wondering, why does running at zone 2 is supposed to be the easy zone now feel tougher now? Shouldn't it get easier? So stick with me because by the end of this video, you'll understand why zone 2 running starts to feel harder as you improve and how to use that to your advantage. So let's back up for a second. Zone 2 is the sweet spot where you're running at about 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. For most runners, it feels like a conversational pace, something you could do for an hour or more without crashing. The goal, build your aerobic engine, your aerobic work capacity, especially doing distance running or endurance sports. You needed that aerobic engine, your ability to process that oxygen for fuel. Zone 2 helps improve your mitochondrial density, fat burning ability, and overall endurance without tipping into overtraining or injury territory, right? Especially if you're doing like an 80-20 approach where 80% of your training volume during the week is in this zone 2 or easy intensity. However, it's not sexy, but it does work. It's powerful. And it's how many elite runners build their aerobic engines. Now, when you're just starting out, your body isn't that efficient. Your zone 2 pace might just be a fast, brisk walk or slow jog, right? Maybe you're doing jog walk. You're not even really pushing the run. And maybe you're not even pushing your aerobic ceiling yet. So the effort feels almost too easy. That's because your body hasn't built the infrastructure yet. Your heart, lungs, and muscles are still adapting. But here's where things flip. As you build up your fitness, as your zone 2 pace gets faster, now you're recruiting more muscles, putting more load on your body, even if the heart rate stays the same. You're still in zone 2, but now you're moving faster, covering more ground, and putting more mechanical stress on your system. So let me break this down. Your lactate threshold shifts upward. You can run faster, right? So if your lactate threshold were here, now it shifts to the right, that curve of when your lactate threshold kind of hits. And so now you can run faster before that you hit that lactate threshold before the fatigue hits. Also, your heart rate stays lower at those higher paces. So what previously your heart rate would have spiked at a faster pace, now you're able to train at a faster pace, and now your heart rate has adapted, right? Sounds great. But now staying in zone 2 means you're holding a faster pace for longer. That's physically and mentally more demanding. Your neuromuscular system is doing a lot more work than your less fitter self. Your energy demands just shift, right? Again, they shift towards, and a lot of the research we call the lactate threshold or the fitness shifts to the right. So if your fitness was down here and now it's shifted up here. And now that you're sustaining that intensity, zone 2 doesn't feel like a recovery jog anymore. It actually feels like a workout. It feels like actual work, especially doing a zone 2 for like a long run, for like an hour or so. Like it may feel easy in the first 15 minutes, but now if you're doing this for like an hour, that zone 2 is gonna feel like a workout. And here's what most runners get wrong. They think zone 2 is just about staying comfortable, about being super easy. But it's not just about comfort. It's about metabolic aerobic development. You're maximizing your aerobic fitness, your aerobic gains without crossing that lactate threshold. Elite runners, they spend tons of times in zone 2, even though they could easily run faster. Why? Because that's where the biggest aerobic adaptations happen with the lowest injury risk. Zone 2 is where the magic happens, but only if you respect it. So let's talk about how to stay in zone 2, especially when your ego wants to push. First, get your zones right. Don't just trust your watch's estimate. Like, oh, my watch is estimating my zones, right? It oftentimes uses your age, 220 minus your age, and that's usually a rough guess at best. It's a guesstimate. Instead, do a 30-minute time trial. Run hard for 30 minutes and take your average heart rate from the last 10 minutes. That's your lactate threshold heart rate. And zone 2 is usually 70 to 80% of that number. Or if you want more precision, all right, go find an exercise physiologist, a sports performance lab, and get a treadmill VO2 max test or a lactate threshold test where they prick your finger, test your blood lactate, and then you can get your zones from that. And then once you know your actual zones or you did the time trial, use tools, right? Heart rate monitor, of course, but you could also do RPE scale, rating perceived exhale, your pace, your different pace for the different zones, and even power output. There's actually power meters you could attach to. I know some watches calculate, like Garmin can calculate power, but you could also get a power meter like Stride and attach it to your running shoe. And remember, zone 2 is an ego check, right? Because it's tempting to run faster, to run harder, but it's still about running at a certain intensity that's sub lactate threshold, below that zone 3, right at zone 2. Log your paces, track your heart rate, and trust the process. Make sure you're actually tracking what your training looks like over time, right? Every month, have a training log, see where your paces are, where your zones are, where your effort is, right? You want to track all this. Like after every work, I tell people, hey, track your effort scale, your heart rate, so you could actually kind of get a gauge when you look back at your training blocks. And over time, you'll see those numbers improve, even if it feels very slow in the very beginning if you're a complete beginner. But over time, you'll see yourself improve. So how to know your zone 2 training is working if it feels harder? Your heart rate drops at the same pace, right? Your pace increases, but your heart rate stays the same. Your recovery time shortens, right? You're able to recover quicker between workouts. Maybe you can even do like a workout in the morning and then another workout in the evening. You're lasting longer in your long runs without crashing. You find that you could run even more times a week, right? Maybe in the very beginning, you could only run like 3 days a week, but now you could run 4 or 5 days a week and you're not feeling completely fatigued or trashed. So these are the wins you should be chasing, not just how your legs feel today, but how you're improving overall and how it looks like in a full training week and then a training month and so forth. Now I want to hear from you. Have you noticed that your zone 2 running gets harder as you've improved? Drop a comment and let me know what's been your biggest challenge. And hey, if you're tired of spinning your wheels and want help training smarter and not just harder, check out the link in the description for free training I just dropped on how to run faster without burning out or getting injured. And if this video helped you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with a running buddy who needs to hear this. Stay strong, run smart, and I'll see you in the next one.